Hey everyone, I'm Pastor Jay and welcome to Simple Church Online. Whether you missed last Sunday, you're checking us out for the first time, or maybe even watching out of state, we're so glad that you're a part of our community. And we're praying today that as you watch, God would use this to bless your life. Enjoy the message.
This entire past week going through pictures and videos and reminiscing and shedding a few tears, laughing quite a bit. And so I just want to celebrate that with you today. And I'm going to just ask you in advance, forgive me that I'm going to have to, my story ties in with the church's story, and I want to tell the full story. So in case you haven't been here, you're going to get the full story of Simple Church, where we came from, what we're about. If you have been here, you're going to get to celebrate. If you've been here for part of it, you're going to get to celebrate probably parts of it and see some of the old stuff maybe you didn't get to see. And if you're brand new, you get to hear the full story and decide if this is the place for you or not. So we're going to go on this journey, sit back, but I promise you there's a purpose in sharing this whole story. And so we're going to do that today. I wore some pieces of our story. That's why I'm in a jacket in 90 whatever degrees it is outside. I went through a crisis of what to wear, because I'm at that age where, you know, I know that I'm not cool anymore, so I have to try to figure out. And for a while there, we had a very young staff. And one of the girls on staff, Mackenzie, if you watch this, thank you for this. She said, I think layers would be good for you. And what I think she was saying is, you're a little chubby. Let's just be honest. Throw a jacket on. Maybe that'll help. And so they're like, well, just wear a jacket. So I only know how to do things like full force. And so I got this jacket first. And then I just ordered every color and just started wearing that only. So it kind of became a thing around here. And then also this T-shirt is the very first ever worn T-shirt. When we got the very first batch of them, I took it out of the box, threw it on. I was so excited about what God was doing. And so this is a 5-year-old T-shirt that looks all raggedy, but I'm so proud of what God has done and what he continues to do. And so we're going to get some insight into Simple Church today. But remember, this is all about God. It's my story. It's the church's story. It's all of our story. But at the end of the day, this is about what God does when you trust him and when you stay focused on him, okay? And so let's go on this journey together. So you got to take you back all the way to really 2017. I've been at a church for a little over 10 years. Had planned on being there my entire life. We just built our dream home. We're kind of like, okay, this is where we want to be. This is how life needs to be. And then the rug kind of got swept out of our feet. And the church we were at, the pastor had a moral failing, and it just kind of really sent everything into a downward spiral. It was a friendship that was very close that was lost, and just a lot of hurt that came out of that. At that time as well, my mom had been diagnosed with MSA, which is an incurable disease, and it was really just one of the most difficult times in my life. For me, like everybody has their own journey, right? And my stuff is not as hard as some of your stuff, but for me, this was just a time that I thought that my life was set. I thought that I was good here. I'm a pastor. I'm doing the right things. I was an executive pastor at the church and loving my role there. And it just kind of all went away. And I was interim pastor for a little while. It looked like maybe I was going to take over as pastor, and then the church went a different direction. And it really was just left me stunned. And I'd been in ministry, for about 15 years at that time, 16 years. And you would have thought by then that I would have been like, okay, cool, God, I know you have something different. Like, you're God, you do what you do, and I trust you, and I'm a pastor, and I have all this all figured out. I went into just a downward spiral of like, God, why? Why is this happening? I don't understand. Why would you do this? Like, I've tried to do everything right. I'm a pastor. I tried to keep the church together. I thought I was doing the right thing. God, why are you doing this to me? And I had a big pity party and panic attacks, and it just was, for me, the most difficult time in my life. And they hired the new pastor, and so I knew that my season there had gone, but I couldn't leave because we just built a house. And so it's like, God, what do I do here? And I kind of went into just a depression and a sadness that I really had never experienced in my life. And so April 3rd was an important day for me. I just was feeling just lost, completely lost. And I decided that I just wanted to go drive around for the day. And something clicked in my head, and I just went and I just drove around to every place that I'd ever been in my life. I grew up in Glenpool, just down the road, and so this has been my home. Other than the time I was in Oklahoma City, this has been my home. And so I drove to my homes in Glenpool that I grew up in. I drove to Glenpool High School. I drove to the church that I went to as a kid, and the new building that we had went to when I worked there, and just hit every single place. And there was something that happened in that day that reminded me that God had always taken care of me. It hadn't always looked the way that I thought that it was going to. You know, I would have a plan or something, and God's like, that's cute. Let me. But God is always like, I've got something better for you. Like, I know the plans I have for you, right? Proverbs 3, that's what's in the front of my Bible. But it's so different when you're walking that journey and you're like, God, what are you doing? And so I drove around to all these places, and that was the first time that I got a sense of starting a church. I never have thought that in my life. I'm kind of a goofy moron, and so I was like, goofy morons don't get to be pastors. And so I just thought, this is not for me. But there was this like fleeting thought. As a matter of fact, I had a friend who's preacher a couple times, Jeff, who had asked me to take over his church. He was going to maybe retire, and so that was the first time I started thinking about different Jeff. This is my other buddy, Jeff, right here. This is, I get off track, but Jeff is one of the big reasons that I'm here today. You talk about going back to places. He was at college with me and was a big, huge part, and I've got a candle back there and a whole story. That's a whole other thing, Jeff. I don't have time for that, but he has an amazing church out in Arkansas. He's killing it, man. Anyway, different Jeff, but that was the first time that God started this thing about being a pastor, like a full-time pastor and starting a church, and I thought, this is crazy. Well, at this point in time, I had been put back into youth ministry, which was insane because I really thought that time had passed. I'd done 16 years in youth ministry and was ready to move on, needed to move on, and so I was doing youth again, and we went on a mission trip in July of 2019. And you've heard this story if you've been here before, but it was in the morning, and you do devotionals out on the beach. And so we're all sitting on the beach. I'm sorry, I just keep seeing people that fit into all these things. Tanner is a big part in the Ensenada stuff, so sorry, Tanner. I just keep seeing people. I've been doing a lot of reminiscing, and I'm getting old, and everything is very nostalgic for me right now. And I had a daughter who graduated, and everything is just a lot. So I'm on the beach, and I'm sitting there, and there's a yoga class going on, a beach yoga class. There's like a surfing instructing thing going on. There's a dog chasing a ball. There's students sitting out. There's people running. And I just was like, God, I need to know what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life. And I'm on a mission trip in Mexico, giving up time for you. You better tell me what to do. Yeah, I get real bold with him. Then he smacks me around a little bit. That's why I love Peter in the Bible, man. He's crazy. Not like that's me. I get it. And I was getting frustrated because there was so much noise, so much going on. I was getting confused by everything, and I would start, this dog was getting out in the water. I'm like, I think he's going to die. Someone got this dog, and then they're swimming and paddling and getting knocked over. Anyway, I was getting super just distracted. And it's on this boardwalk in Ensenada, Mexico, and I walked up to the top of the boardwalk, and I have several pictures and videos I want to show you. And so I have this picture here. This is not the picture I took, but it's one that Amanda took. So I walked to the top there. This is not the day that everything happened, but I walked to the top, and what happened was it got real quiet once I got away from everything. And I saw everything in one big picture. And instead of this being all these little things, it was this big picture of God's, the ocean of what God sees. And I felt in that moment like God was saying, this is what I see. You only see parts. You don't get the big picture. You can't handle everything that I want from you. You can only handle pieces. And so I felt like in that moment, all he said was, I just want you to trust me to take a step. And so I said, God, I will do whatever you want me to do. I thought I had learned surrender in my life, but it wasn't until everything collapsed in 2017 that I really learned what surrender was. I can't keep everything together. I can't keep friendships together. I can't even keep a church together. That's not my role. It's God's role only. And so I learned what surrender was all about. And so I finally got to a place, I threw my hands up, and I said, God, whatever you want, I will do it. You tell me. And so this feeling of starting a church built up, and I kept pushing it down. I don't know how to start a church. I don't know what I'm doing here. This is crazy. And then in early November, I read this book called Chase the Line. Be careful with this bad boy. When you read it, it will motivate you. And I so appreciate Mark Batterson for taking time to write this book. And I read it, and it just talks about going after something that's so big that you can't do it. That God's the only one who can do it, because that's the kind of thing that you want to chase after. That God's created everybody with a purpose, and everybody has a lion to chase, and you need to get after it. And I was fired up at this point. I'm like, okay. And so in November, I went to Amanda, and this was kind of the seller for me. Again, we'd built our dream home. We'd saved up a long time to be able to build this. And it was just everything that we ever wanted. And I went to her and I said, hey, I think I'm supposed to start a church. We're going to have to sell our home. We're going to sell our cars. And she said, let's do it. I mean, like that, immediately. I thought that she would say, hey, let's talk this through, because I can be a little crazy sometimes. I don't know if you know this. But she was like, no, let's do it. And that's when I knew that God was the one directing this. And so we decided we were going to make this thing happen. We didn't know what that was going to look like, so we had no plans at all. But in December, I felt like God was saying, let the leadership know. Now, mind you, I had no plans. We were going to start a church, but I had no clue how. We didn't have a building. We didn't have anything. It was just something that I knew God was stirring in me. And so on December 19th, I went in and I told the leadership of the church that I was at, hey, it's time for me to leave. I don't know what I'm doing. I know that I'm supposed to start a church at some point, but that's what's happening. On December 22nd, my mother-in-law calls me and says, hey, there's an office building I want you to come look at. And I said, that's not a church. That's called an office building. You know, you just said that, right? I think she's watching live with us? Yeah, she had to be out of town. So anyway, so we went to this office building, and we walk in, and this is what I see. And like, I knew when we were going there that it was an office building, but when you walk in, it's like, oh, this is an office building. Like, it just clicks. Like, what? Like, you said, like, I could touch the ceiling. Like, that tells you something. I'm not real tall. So you can see my mother-in-law and my wife kind of like, she kind of has that pose like, yeah, I don't know if he's going to like this kind of thing. But this is, and then this was the kids' room eventually. And then is there one more right there? And this was the other room that we had available. And so we walked through this building, and I'm like, I don't know. But I felt God saying yes. And at that point, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, God. So if you say yes, I'm just going to go for it. And so we decided we're going to start meeting in this office building. Now, again, I had not planned on being a church, starting anything at this point. And so December 22nd, we found this office building. And then over the Christmas break, I just started working on everything. And on January 8th, we officially became a church. So in the sense of we got all the paperwork that we needed, we came up with a logo, and I had to pick a name. Well, like when everything was getting kind of kerfuzzled, or whatever the word is, with the church I was at before, I was having lunch with a friend, and I jokingly said, if I ever start a church, I'm calling it Simple Church, because I am so tired of politics and drama and all the junk. I just want it to be about Jesus, man. I just want people's lives to be changed. That's it. Simple Church. And so then we get to go pick a name, because this is all happening really, really fast. And I just read the book, and so I'm like, Lion Chasers Church, like Lion Church, chasing the Lion Church, like everything. I wanted to, like the lion, I wanted that in there so bad, and it kept coming back to Simple Church. And I kept saying, that's stupid. Like, we were going to call them Simple Kids. Like, you got Simple Kids in there, you got Simple Teens there. And so I tried everything. I was like, like Fireworks Church, or whatever. I was like, I want something cool. And it just kept coming back to that's what I felt in my heart. God's like, no, because you need to stay focused on what church is really about. Just Jesus. Keep it simple. And so we did. And I was looking for a logo and stuff, and chevrons were really popular at that point in time for some reason. But we had started talking with a bank, Regent Bank, and they have like this little tree thing. I don't know if you've seen it. And so I'd seen a cool chevron. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the bank logo. And then I'm like, oh, there's meaning in that. So let's. So we picked that. I was like, the chevron's cool. And so we really just picked it because I needed a cool logo and I needed it quick. And so the more that I thought about it, the chevron pointing up with 3 lines. Like, I didn't plan that, but then it clicked like, it represents the Father, Son, and the Spirit, and we keep our eyes up And that's what this is about. That's what we're focused on. And so if you want to know what the logo is all about, that's it. I didn't plan on that, but then God was like, hey, I'm going to make it cool because you don't know how to do anything. So I was like, thanks, God. So January 19th, we planned Vision Nights. Now, again, we were announcing on like the 12th at the church that I was at that I was leaving. And so then we had Vision Nights right after that. Matter of fact, there was a couple people at that church who came to me and said, you've been planning this for at least a year. And I was like, I promise you, bro. Like, when I get real serious, I say bro to anybody. I'm like, bro, I promise you. Like, this all happened in 2 weeks. It was, I cannot explain to you the way that God moved and the way that I just was like, I'm stepping with God. I did not invite anybody from that church. There was 3 people that I talked to and told them I'm starting a church. Outside of that, I'm not trying to take from another church. I'm not trying to make this, I'm not trying to do a 2.0 with the church that I was at. This is what God has called me to do. I'm going and I'm doing that. And so we had some Vision Nights. And we had, it was a bring your own chair situation. Actually, no, we borrowed chairs from another church. They let us borrow chairs. And so it was going to be a bring your own chair situation, I was like, I'm fine, that's cool. It's in an office building. What are people going to be like, we have to bring our own chairs to an office building? No, they're going to be fine with it. So, but we borrowed chairs, we borrowed equipment from Jeff Henson's church, sound equipment. And so we had these nights and we talked about, hey, this is not a 2.0 with the church that we were just at. This is something new that God is doing. And we're going to go into the world and we're going to change the narrative and we're going to let people know that God loves them. And so we kind of shared about that. We had about 200 people show up, which was fantastic. It's a great way to kick off a church when 200 people show up. And so we had these Vision Nights. And then on February 2nd, we had kind of our first official thing, which just happened to be the Super Bowl. And so we had a Super Bowl party, and this was a bring your own chair. So this is kind of the setup at this point. We were able to purchase 2 big TVs and a backdrop. And that's pretty much it. That was our church. And so everybody brought, and if you were there, this is the infamous Shakira and J-Lo year. I don't know if you remember that. There were poles, there was dancing, and I was freaking out. And I kept thinking, it's going to get better, and then it just got worse and worse. So finally, I was like, switch it to the Puppy Bowl. We can't handle any more of this. But it was a good way. It felt fitting for our church to start that way, because I'm like, we're going to have a fun church, too. We're going to laugh like Christians should. We should be happy people, but we're not going to watch that. So change the channel. So we have the Super Bowl night, and then we're going to begin our core team meeting. So at this point, we'd had about a little under 200 people commit to being a part of the core team, and we were going to have 6 weeks of meeting with the core team, and then we're going to launch the church. And so we're about to start the core team meeting. It was going to be on the 9th, so February 9th. February 4th, I sent a text message to the owner of the building to thank him for letting us use that facility. Long text message. I'm so grateful for what you allowed us to do. I want to tell you what God is doing. We had over 200 people show up. We have our friends have let us borrow sound equipment and chairs, and this thing's looking like a real church, and lives are going to be changed forever because of you, because this guy was a believer, and I just wanted him to know the impact he was already making. And so I sent this whole message, and he sends back. This is 5 days before we're supposed to meet for the first time. I had no idea it was going to be that many people. There's no way you can do that in this building. And, of course, being the spiritual person I am, I'm like, oh, well, then God's got it covered. No, I laid down on the stage and sulked and thought, God, what are we going to do? How did you get us to this office building just to take it from us? I couldn't believe it, because I really thought, I'm hearing from God. I'm taking a step at a time. And I had a couple people there, and they had to tell me, like, remember, if God's in this, he's going to take care of it. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And so I texted him, and I said, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. We didn't know what God was going to do. And he happened to be in town the next day, and he said, hey, come have a meeting with me, and let's talk. And so on February 6th, I sat down with him, and he was very apologetic. Hey, we just can't have that many people. It's a liability issue. And I said, I get it. Can we at least meet one more time? And he said, well, take me back to the building and let's walk around and show me what you've done. And so we were walking around the building, and at that point we hadn't really done a whole lot, but we made a little makeshift stage and some stuff like that. And we're walking around, and he takes his phone out, and he's typing. And he keeps walking and typing, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he goes, I'll just sell you the building. 55,000 square foot office building. We haven't even had a service. We haven't taken up any tithes. We have no money. I was just quitting my job that I had, and I'm like, I don't know, what did you just say? And he's like, I'll just sell you the building. And I was like, hey, we're a brand new church. We don't have money. Like, he says, no. Structure it in a way that you can defer payments for a year. You can meet here, and then it was already up. The building's already up for sale. He's like, leave it up for sale. If you sell it, you can take the profits from it and take it. And it was just one of those moments where it's like, what's happening? He had to take me to his brother so he could sit and talk about it and convince his brother about it. And these are millionaires and billionaires. And I'm like, what is going on, God? And finally, at the end of the day, they said, yeah, we'll do it. Let's write up the contract. So we had our first core team meeting. I let them know what was going on. Hey, guys, we're going to sign a contract for $2 million. Welcome to the first meeting. We're signing a contract for $2 million. And then we, right after that, so we had been borrowing chairs, and this was the first time that God began showing up through the people of Simple Church. And before our second meeting, we had some people donate, a family donate. We had to add more chairs for what we have now, but the chairs you're sitting in now came in on my birthday, February 11th, 2020, and we got our very own chairs before our second meeting. And so thank you. You shall remain unnamed, the people who did that, but I so appreciate their heart there. And then on February 19th, if you show the picture here, this is cheesy me signing a $2 million contract to own an office building. We didn't just get the building. There were 11 tenants in there that we were now in charge of. I've never managed tenants like that in my life. I don't know what to do with. There was like medical facilities. There was like crazy stuff. Is there another picture there? Yeah. So this is the outside of the Yorktown building. And that's actually on the last day that we were there. But we now as Simple Church in a month and a half owned a $2 million, 55,000 square foot space with 11 tenants and a dream. And looking back now, it's only God, because I don't know what I was thinking or what any of y'all were thinking who were a part of this. You stayed with us. That's on you. So we owned an office building. And it worked out really cool because I was able to clean the facility. So in the beginning, I didn't have to get an outside job like I was going to. So I was able to clean the building, which was just fun, fantastic. But God provided there, so I didn't have to get a job outside of that. And then, so we began remodeling. Now it's our space. We can do whatever we want to. We went to all the tenants and we're like, hey, we're going to have a church here, so it might be a little weird on Sundays. So most of them didn't meet at all on Sunday, so it wasn't a big deal. But then we began having our core team meetings. We began to remodel. Here's a little bit of a picture. So this is what it kind of became quickly. We had a little stage up front, but we put up just a big wood wall. We tried to make it as much of a church as you could in an office building. And there was something, I don't know if charming is the right word. There was just something about it. If you were there, even though it was an office building, it just felt different. Like God's doing something different, and I'm here for it. And so, here we are. We have an office building. March 2020, nothing could go wrong. Perfect time to start a church. Nothing could derail us now because God. And COVID said, hey, let me just ruin everything that you have planned. We were at the end of our core team meeting. We were about to do our very first service, and the world shut down. And again, it was hard for me not to be like, God, what are we doing? Why would you ask me to start a church in the middle of COVID? Like, this is insane. And so we officially launched online, and I have just a short video of what that was like preaching. This was the worst time of my life. I'm interactive. I want to talk to people. And so it's just me and a camera. I'm like, you get me, right, camera? Like, let's do this. It was just the worst ever. And so we did that for months. And finally I said, hey, listen, we're going to break a few of these rules. I need like 6 or 7 people just to come up and just be spread apart, whatever, but just be out there where I can actually see people and talk. And so the crazy thing was we launched online. We decided we're just going to launch online April 19th. We launched and said, hey, we're here. we can't meet, but we just want you to know we love you and we're happy for you. We actually grew online during that time. Unfortunately, I had a bunch of friends in ministry who were just seeing such a heavy decline, and it was hurting. It was such a unique thing starting at the time that we did. We actually gained momentum through COVID. We actually built more people. The women started a Bible study, which was huge. That's when that whole thing began. They outpaced us guys by 5 years, basically. So, but we saw God just continue to move even during that time. Now, gosh, I'm going to be so over the kids. People are going to kill me. Thank our kids workers today, and I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. But enter Monsters and Donut. Okay, this is why this is really important. One, because I went back and I believe that this is what they were talking about when they were talking about wine. If you go back in Hebrew, I think they were talking about Monster. Let me just take a drink real quick. So that ting, there's just nothing like it, Matthew. Right? There's nothing like that ting. So I would always take like I-44 to get to 71st and Lewis, where the building was at. And I decided I was going to be super healthy in the mornings now and go get Monster and Donut at the Quick Trip down here at 51st and Union. So I took a different way I live over in Berry Hill. And so I took a different way, and I started coming down this way. And I'd drive down here and then go down to 71st there. And so I get my donut, my Monster, and thank God for it, and then drive down this road here, and I started noticing this building here. I was like, man, it looks like a church, but there wasn't a sign at that point. There was like a banner out there, and so I didn't really know what was going on with it. So, I mean, for months, I drove by it, and then I stopped and started praying in the parking lot. I was like, God, I don't know what this is, but if there's something here, we're looking for, I'd love to have a permanent home. Man, I lived for 7 years right over here at 51st and Union. Like, I have a heart for this area. God, I don't know what's going on here, but could you do what only you could do? And so in September, we got a hold of some of the leadership here, and we had the first meeting with one of the leaders of the church here. It was Life Park. And we had a meeting with her, and she said that they're kind of going through transition. They had lost a lot of people, kind of been through a difficult time in their life. And so, they're looking for something different. And I was like, hey, we're looking for a home. You guys are looking for a church. Let's make this thing happen. I'm like, God, this is crazy. We're not even a year in. You got us an office building, and now you're going to get us another building. Oh, God, you're so cool. And so we had talked to her. She was going to go back to the leadership and talk with them. And then we had a little bit of a break, and then we talked again. When I talked again, she was like, we're meeting with the Wesleyan denomination, and they're going to buy us out. And I'm like, what? We just talked. What are you talking about? No, so I sent her this long email about who we were and why it was so important and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, they met on September 23rd of 2020, and this property was taken over by the Wesleyan. They combined with the Wesleyans, Life Park did. And so she had emailed me back and said, hey, would you be willing to meet with the Wesleyans and with us and talk about something, see what we could do? And I was like, yeah, I guess, this guy named Devin from the Wesleyans, and then I emailed her and was like, hey, do you know how many people are going to be there? And she's like, I think it's just Devin, and at this point, they hadn't said anything about having a pastor or anything. There was no pastor of this church. And she said, Devin's going to meet from the Wesleyans, and then I think Matthew's going to be there, who's going to be our pastor. And I was like, what? It went from the building, we could make this thing happen, to now you have a pastor and you've been taken over by the Wesleyans. What the heck? I'm like, no, this was going to work out so perfect. And so on October 12th, at the office building, in comes strolling Devin and Matthew. And immediately when I saw Devin, I was like, I know you. He's like, yeah, I know you. My son did an internship at your church under you. And I was like, I didn't know you were that, Devin. I like you. You're a cool guy. And then Rito, and I was like, who is this guy? Pastor, who do you think you are? And we met, and immediately, just, if you know Rito, just a heart of gold. And so we sat down and we talked about what could be, and we just started praying about it. And over the next couple months, it was just, let's talk this thing through. Let's talk about what could be, how this needs to work, all those things. Matthew was so gracious to say, hey, I'm all for it, man. He had been pastor for 3 months, I think. And then it was like, hey, do you want to not be pastor anymore? And he was like, dude, I want to move the kingdom forward. Whatever that looks like, let's make that happen. And so we worked it all out. And on March 14th, we announced that we moved to a new facility. And so almost a year basically of starting, we were now going to be moving to a brand new facility. And then I want to show you just a video real quick. It'll show you kind of what the building looked like when we got here. Turn sideways and you can kind of see what it looks like there. And so, so we came in. That's so funny. We came in and we really want to make it feel like home. And so, again, the Life Park people, we still have some here today who are such amazing people. And we came in, and to be honest, they let us come in and take over. And I know that was not easy for them, and it was a difficult time, but we really felt like it was what we needed to do to move forward was to make this home and make this simple church. And so I'm so grateful for the Life Park people who came with us. And in 12 days, it was 12 days, because I wanted to be ready by Easter because Monster. I was like, we got to go. We got to be ready by Easter. Let's do this. In 12 days, we did almost a full remodel. This was the 23rd. I mean, we jumped in and started doing it all. So this stuff wasn't back there. You can kind of see just how it was a little lighter and just had the stained concrete. And so we just came in and just started. I mean, we gutted everything. And we really the building itself was perfect. We just wanted to kind of give it that simple church feel. And so we came in, and there's Katie painting the stage. You've done that a few times, yeah. And so we in 12 days got it ready for Easter. And we had our first service here on April 4th of 2021. Our first Easter service here, and that is now 4 years of being in this building and celebrating 5 years. Now that's just such a quick version of what God has done. And there's another video I want to show. We'll post it this week. That's a walk through the office building, because I want you to see everything that we were able to do in there and how we were able to dress it up. So we'll post that so you can check it out. I can't tell you, I don't have time to go into now from then to now what God has done. Like, the stories are incredible. We don't have like, hey, God gave us another building. We actually went through a lot of turmoil with the office building and lawsuits and all kinds of stuff. And smartly enough, when we signed that contract, I said, hey, we need to have a way out of this. And they were gracious enough to say, if it ever becomes a financial burden, you can walk away. And so I was like, sign, settle. And so we were able to walk away. Just got out of a lawsuit that people tried to sue us. We weren't even involved in it. Like, it just got finished 2 months ago. And so it turned out being a little bit crazy, but for the time, it was an amazing thing that God did. But the stories now are not about buildings or what God is doing. It's about people. It's about families, man. And we're going to start sharing some of the stories of what God is doing, restoring marriages, breaking addictions, bringing people closer to Jesus than they've ever been before. That's the stuff that we're celebrating. It was never about these buildings. That shows God's power and might and the way he sees the big picture, but it's never about that for us. And there's an important reason that I wanted to share all of that with you today. And it goes back to Joshua chapter 3. And really quickly, I want to read this. And so this is the point in time that that the Israelites, God's people, they are free from the Egyptians. They part the Red Sea. They get to walk through that. Then they wander around the wilderness because they didn't listen like we often do. And now this is the time that they're going to get to cross and start going to the promised land that God has promised them. So we're going to start here in Joshua 3, verse 14. And this is God instructing the people. It says, so the people left their camp to cross the Jordan, and the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. It was the harvest season, and the Jordan was overflowing its banks. But as soon as the feet of the priests who were carrying the ark touched the water at the river's edge, the water above the point began backing up a great distance away at a town called Adam, which is near Zarethan. And the water below that point flowed onto the Dead Sea until the riverbed was dry. Then all the people crossed over near the town of Jericho. Meanwhile, the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Lord's covenant stood on dry ground in the middle of the riverbed as the people passed by. They waited there until the whole nation of Israel had crossed the Jordan on dry ground. And so again, kind of a smaller version of the Red Sea. They step in with the Ark of the Covenant, which housed a lot of important stuff. And they stood there, and everybody was able to cross on the other side. But this is why I think this is really important for us to do this today, to understand what God has done. It says this, chapter 4. When all the people had crossed the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, now choose 12 men, one from each tribe. Tell them, take 12 stones from the very place where the priests are standing in the middle of the Jordan. Carry them out and pile them up at the place where you will camp tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had chosen, one from each of the tribes of Israel. And he told them, "Go into the middle of the Jordan in front of the ark of the Lord your God. Each of you must pick up one stone and carry it out on your shoulder. 12 stones in all, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. We will use these stones to build a memorial. In the future, your children will ask you, 'What do these stones mean?' Then you can tell them, 'They remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the ark of the Lord's covenant went across. These stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever.'" In the Old Testament, they would take stones and they would build places and they would name it when God had done something miraculous. Why? Because we forget. We forget so easy. And so what they wanted to do was build a place they could take their children and say, "Hey, this is the place where God showed up, where he stopped the Jordan River so that we could come across." And the reason it's so important to remember this story and to go back through some of this stuff, as silly as some of the stuff may be, it reminds me that God is always in control. And it's only God that does this. And that I can trust him even when things don't make sense. Even when it feels like it's at the darkest moment, I can trust God because he showed up before. He's never failed me. And I don't know where you're at in life and what your life looks like, but I want you to believe that God never fails. Things look different. That doesn't mean circumstances are going to change, but he will always show up for you if you put your trust in him. And so now we're 5 years into this. And it's easy to look back now and say, "Wow, I can't believe you did this, and this. And guess what? There's going to be bumps along the way. There are people who aren't here now that used to be here that were close friends. There's bumps along the way. And it's not necessarily going to get easier. The enemy does not want us doing anything that's worthwhile. But you know what we can do? We can look back and we can say, "Yeah, we thought the same thing whenever we didn't know where we were going to meet. And in 3 days, God showed up and got us an office building. And then we weren't going to be able to meet in that office building, and then God gave us the office building. And then when we knew that we needed a permanent home, God gave you Monsters and Donut to lead you down the path of righteousness." He's never failed us, and he never will. The other reason it's so important to go through this and remember this is so that we can share the story that it's only God. Listen, I'm so proud and honored to be the pastor of this church, but if it was left on me, we would fail. We can look at everything that's happened, everything around you, and say, "Only God." In front of this book, it says, "If your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small." It also says inside here, "Go after a dream that's destined to fail without divine intervention." Go after something that only God can do, because then he gets all the glory. I don't get to go around to people and say, "Hey, let me tell you what I did. I got an office building." I get to go say, "Hey, let me tell you what God did, dude. This is crazy." Like it really is insane. I telling this story to people, it was like, "You need to write a book." I'm like, "Someday I might," because it's another thing that I'm like, I have no sense writing a book, so maybe I should, kind of thing. But it really is. It's like only God can do this. I can't take credit for any of this. And again, I wish I had more time to go into this church. And you know, my mom passed away, and this church became a healing for me and my family, for losing my mom, for the church hurt that we went through. We have gained friends here. Golly, I did the whole thing so good without crime. We have gained friends here, people here who have loved our family in ways that we didn't think could happen at church. Because we've seen a lot of ugly in church. And so when I go and I tell people about Simple Church, it's not, "Hey, look what God's doing," or look what I've done, or what I get to be a part of. I go say, "Hey, this is a church for me." Like, this church takes care of my family. When we say we're family here, that's not just something that's like, "Hey, that'll sound good to people." I'm serious. And what we want for this church, and you, if you didn't get to be a part of it in that 5 years, that's fine, because you're jumping into a time when God's about to do something insane here. Because what we want this to be, we don't want this to be a church where you come and maybe you come for a little while, then you go try another church. I want this to be a church for generations. I want your kids' kids to come here. And what I want that to be is that they come here and they meet Jesus and they're discipled and they know him better than they ever have before, and they walk out of here more confident than ever. Why? To live out our vision, to change the world's narrative of God by becoming more like Jesus every day. To go out into a broken world and say, listen, if you want to be here at Simple Church, I'm telling you, for the next 5 years at least, this is the direction that we're going. We're building up disciples who are going out into the world and saying, hey, I know it's broken, I know it's dark, I know it's scary, I know it's sad out here, I know people are angry, but let me just tell you, God is not mad at you. He loves you enough to send his son to die for you. He cares for you. He wants you. And I've got a church that you can come to that's going to share that good news with you and going to love you right where you're at. That's what we're going to be about. We know who we are. First 5 years, you're trying to figure out who are we, what are we going to. I know who we are. The question is, are we ready to go on this journey? And so if you're here, I don't care if you've been here from the very beginning, day one. Where's Joshua at? Joshua brought in, he's one of our OGs. He brought in equipment during COVID, and he's up there in the sound booth. I don't care if you're from the very beginning or you just came here today for the first time. Welcome. You're a part of what God is going to do here. Your story matters. And I'm so excited for the future of what God is going to do. And I'm not trying to build something up, and I'm serious about this. We are working right now behind the scenes to figure out a discipling plan that's going to fit really well here and start moving some stuff around, because, listen, we're not here to build a church to say, hey, we built a church. We're here for people to fall more and more in love with Jesus and take that out into the world and share that good news with them. And so I'm ready to go on that journey over these next few years with you guys and into the future. And like I said, kids, man, I want them here. I want them worshiping. So that's the future of Simple Church. I'm so glad that you're a part of it. But the only way that's going to happen is for us to do what's on this sign right back here. Keep it simple. Just Jesus. That's it. It's not about anything else other than that. It's about loving Jesus and taking that out into the world.
Once again, thank you for stopping by today. We'd love for you to be a part of our family at one of our services. You can find out all of our information at simplechurchtulsa.com, and we'd love to pray for you any way we can. So please message us, and we hope you have a great week.